Hello everybody, I hope everybody's well. Welcome to the afternoon. I'm Jonny Pye. I'm going to be running you through the BIM 360 construction project workflows this afternoon. Hope everyone had a great lunch. I certainly did. I had some great little triangle cucumber sandwiches, which were great. So what I'm going to do today is run through some of the BIM 360 offerings, some of the stuff that we do as well. A bit about myself before we start. So I'm a senior applications engineer here at Man Machine. I specialize in some of the implementations, the consultancy with Man Machine. So I've worked on some very large projects. I've worked on some very small projects as well with BIM 360, and I've kind of seen most scenarios with how it can be implemented. So what I'm going to do first of all is just run through the agenda for today. Let me just grab my pointer. Here we go. So today's topic is going to include a bit about what Man Machine can do for you in terms of BIM 360. We'll have a look at industry trends at the moment as well, so things that are kind of playing a part in what's happening with BIM 360 at the moment. Then we'll have a look at the different packages and offerings that BIM 360 has. A bit about the functions, the main functions, very high level view on terms of how the functions in BIM 360 work. A bit about interoperability. So at the moment there's some really interesting stuff happening with BIM 360 and pretty much everything. So Autodesk are looking at making sure BIM 360 can be integrated with almost anything. And then I'm going to do a live demo, so we'll see how that goes. But that was going to be a demo from start to finish in terms of design. So I'm actually going to run through as many of the modules as possible. It should be a fairly interesting story that we go on there. So first of all, just having a look at what we can do and provide with BIM 360. We've done lots and lots of support offerings for BIM 360 specifically, so we do have another support service, but we do have a specific BIM 360 support. And that can be anything from a very quick question about permissions through to a very complicated question about integration. Really there just to help make sure that it's implemented from the start and it grows within businesses from the beginning. So as well as that, we also do up and ready training, which is where we take BIM 360 and we just scope out how it's going to work well in the company, in your company, and then figure out the best workflows that are going to be efficient for the way that you work. We also offer training, just standard training as well. So if you already have strategic plans in terms of how it's going to be rolled out, it's just basic user training that we can cover in small or en masse for those things, including things like videos that we can do specifically for your company. So that's just a bit about Man and Machine and what we can do with BIM 360. What we're going to have a look at next is just industry trends that are affecting the way BIM 360 is being introduced into the industry, and other factors in the industry that are affecting kind of the way people are working. So just a few of these to start with. One of the first ones to mention, obviously at the moment there's a lot going on in terms of people working from home, people working abroad. One of my friends recently moved to Lisbon, very jealous, but he's able to do that because his company is really well cloud-based, and they've really quickly reacted to being able to get their team working from anywhere. So dispersed project teams is a big one at the moment for the reason BIM 360 is something that's becoming bigger. Other reasons, complex relationships, whether that be with suppliers, stakeholders, etc. Information everywhere is just passing all over the place, and it's just getting more complicated. And so the new things coming out from BIM 360 in terms of integration and interoperability, and meaning that things like that, things with the relationships with other companies are being made easier. Other things in there, so BIM adoption, still a big one. ISO 19650 is a very important part of any company's investment in terms of potentially how projects are going to be rolled out. And so having a common data environment, making sure the information is easily accessible, and then looking towards facility management is something that's pushing cloud-based services. And then the last one as well, again on that topic, is future-proofing and handovers in the facility management. So making sure that this project that starts now and ends in 10 years is still going to have the services it needs to be able to run properly. And some of the stuff out there at the moment, so I've done lots and lots of work, like I say, with companies that are using different tools, and just some of them might be quite not up to the task maybe for what they need them to do. So things like basic cloud storage, I've kind of heard lots of stories about people not getting the right permissions or not being able to track versions of things. So not quite meeting the requirements of maybe a common data environment or just an EDMS type tool that's going to help you keep things on track. Next one, network drives. Main reason for this one at the moment being a disadvantage is, and not quite meeting requirements, is that it's typically local and just means that not everybody can access it. Maybe they can get to it via a VPN, but sometimes that's kind of fraught with issues. And then the last one, there are common data environments out there that can do certain things, but they're focused on very specific workflows that don't allow for the flexibilities that companies sometimes need. So talking about industry trends and BIM, one thing I'd like to mention is the ISO 19650, which we've already done a lot on today. The one that's specific to this demonstration is Guidance C, facilitating the common data environment workflow and technical solution. So if you're interested in looking at ISO 19650 in relation to common data environments and a bit of guidance and help in those terms of things, it's a great place to go. It's actually free from the UK BIM Alliance website. And it's just a part of what's going on at the moment in the industry in terms of pushing these new technologies. And in terms of common data environment use, we tend to think, or there is a common conception, that maybe a common data environment is for perhaps someone like a tier 1 contractor to use with lots of different disciplines. But if you, in Guidance C, in the ISO 19650 guidance, you'll find that it's not just for tier 1s, it's for organizing data all over the construction industry. So one company who might want to organize their outsourced designers, their suppliers, their customers, can also use a common data environment to do that. So they're actually a supplier to a tier 1, but they're just further down the food chain. And so there is that common misconception that perhaps common data environment isn't for me, but it can be for everybody. So that's a bit about industry trends. What we're going to look at now is what actually is in the BIM 360 packages. It's going to be a quick overview on what exists currently. So the 4 main BIM 360 offerings are BIM 360 Docs, BIM 360 Design, BIM 360 Build, and BIM 360 Coordinate. So BIM 360 Docs underlies them all, so you can't have any of the Design, Build, and Coordinate modules without BIM 360 Docs. To give you a quick overview on what each of them do, BIM 360 Docs is the document management tool from BIM 360, so you can host all of your data inside it. There's lots of things in it like review processes, issues, transmittals, and compare features, which are very, very useful on their own. BIM 360 Design is a collaboration tool. It allows for the collaboration of files using either Revit or Plant 3D or Civil 3D for you to be able to really easily get teams to work together on the same file or with disciplines with each other as well. So I will be doing a demonstration on that. BIM 360 Build, getting your information from the field back to the office, is typically what Build would be used for. And then last of all, BIM 360 Coordinate is completely dedicated to coordination and the federation of models. And I will be demonstrating how that works as well in the demo. So the workflow that we'll be looking at in the demo will be BIM 360 Docs, Design, and Coordinate, with a tiny bit of Build as well, in terms of the issues inside of BIM 360 Docs. Things to mention, BIM 360 offerings that exist out there as well, and this is more just so you're aware of terminology. So what we looked at previously were called the next generation set of modules. These exist as well as offerings. So BIM 360 Ops is a tool for facility management. BIM 360 Plan is a way of planning projects Gantt chart style. And then BIM 360 Layout, which is typically designed for surveyors and the like who might need to perhaps work with Revit and layout on site and make sure the points are exactly where they need to be. So there are all the offerings. The main ones to consider are the first set of modules that we looked at. In terms of the functionality, so diving into some of the functions of BIM 360, and these are going to be very high level, so they're not going to specifically talk about any kind of one function, but they're just going to give you a high-level idea of how some of the functionality can benefit you. So the first one to mention about BIM 360 is that it's a very simple interface. And this just means that change in an organization is made easier because of that interface. There's a lot of ways that you can make the interface that you're using very similar maybe to what you're using currently. So it's a folder structure. So by similar, I mean the folder structure might be the same. But because it's browser-based and because of this simple interface, it means that it's very easy to understand very quickly. The other thing to mention is that it's scalable. So whether it's a very small organization or a very large organization, or a very small organization that intends to grow, BIM 360 is usable across the board. It can be for a very small company or a very large company, or anyone in between. And the other thing to mention as well is it works very well with a lot of the Autodesk tools. So if you already have Autodesk software, it's a huge efficiency gain if you're looking to collaborate with other Autodesk software, or if you're just looking to be able to share information through your Autodesk softwares. So I will be demonstrating how you can specifically work with Revit and BIM 360, but you could use all of the different softwares we're looking at here directly with BIM 360. It also incorporates Microsoft C365, so as well as it being a very good design platform, it's actually very good for documents as well. So you can edit documents in the browser interface. You don't actually even need to have Microsoft installed to be able to do this. The reason this is useful is because you've got that document and it's in that one place. So it means that you're not uploading something that you've edited and perhaps losing that current version. You've always got something in one place that you can edit and others can view if they need to. The other thing to mention is the amount of files that you can view on the browser. So one of the issues that you can face on construction projects is you try to share something with somebody and they don't have the software to view it. And BIM 360 allows you to be able to view these on your computer or on your iPhone, and there is an absolute multitude of file types it works with, and they aren't just Autodesk either. So there's a lot of file types there that are specific to other softwares that also may be a problem for people to view who are using Autodesk. So it's cross-platform in the way that that works, and that's a really useful feature. The other thing to mention is about the app as well, and the way that the modules are integrated. So the reason BIM 360 is so easy to use, again, is because it's all in one place. You've got the potential for all the modules to be in that one place. So when you've got the app, as you add the services to a user, they just have one app to log into. They don't have 3 or 4 apps that they have to go to for separate things, like field, or whether they want to look at a document. Everything is just in one place. And some of the other useful tools, and this is probably for more larger organizations, is one of the features they've added is the ability to be able to use all of the metadata that you get in BIM 360 to create the analytics on the project. So this is really useful for managers who want to quickly just have a look at a project and make decisions quickly about what they might need to do that day. So these are built up from the issues inside of BIM 360. And they can really, really quickly allow anybody who maybe doesn't need to dive into the absolute minutiae of things to be able to make those decisions. So what we'll look at now is how BIM 360 is creating interoperability. So it is an Autodesk product, but that being said, Autodesk are doing a lot of things to make sure that you can integrate it with lots of other things. So the first thing to mention is the ability to be able to get the data out of BIM 360. So there's a new module which is in preview mode at the moment, but it allows you to essentially download everything, all of the information into Excel that you could then use in something like Power BI or just for data analysis. And you can do this for every project at the same time. So you can take all of the information and then just use it however you'd like to use it. The other thing that's in terms of integration, which is enormous for BIM 360, is the ACC Connect platform that Autodesk are looking at using. So ACC Connect, to give you a very quick insight into what it actually does, it allows you to connect BIM 360 with hundreds of online platforms. And this really breaks down the barrier and the silo between the way that you might work with BIM 360. So you can host things on BIM 360 and you can have files move around based on trigger events. And not just files, you can also have information move as well. So ACC Connect is a huge one for breaking down those silo walls with BIM 360 and allowing you to be able to expand all of your information into other cloud platforms if it's required. And the other thing to mention as well with integration is BIM 360 is actually using a platform called Forge to allow third parties to create apps to tap into that BIM 360 information. So there's loads and loads, there's I think hundreds now of apps that plug directly into BIM 360 that allow you to get the information out and then be able to use it on those platforms. So it's another way of connecting everything. And a lot of the apps are not Autodesk. So there's the ability to be able to play around with lots of different software and then plug it all back into BIM 360 if required. And just a couple of apps to point out here that I quite like the look of, just to give you a kind of idea of what's being done. Insight VR is a great little app that allows you to have a team meeting in a model that's based in BIM 360. So we've got some avatars there that are having a conversation about the model in BIM 360. Earth Camera is a great app that allows you to put a camera on site and have that live stream from site back into BIM 360 home so that you can actually see the project as it progresses in that camera. SmartVid, interesting one. It allows you to take your photos, have a quick scan of them and see perhaps who's wearing PPE or not. So it's an algorithm-based platform that reads images and then finds issues within them. Sigma Estimate is a way of estimating, so it's a tool that allows you to use BIM 360 to estimate some of the models that you might have. And then a few other apps that people just might know the names of already. So Zoom is integrated, Bluebeam is integrated, Revit are integrated. So there's really big names that integrate with BIM 360 that can aid in that interoperability. So that's everything to do with BIM 360. I think it's going to be worthwhile now having a look at the actual product itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to run into a demo where first of all I'm going to show you some functionality, so some good, really high-level functionality to begin with, and then I'm going to take you through a story of a design. And hopefully I'm going to be able to do this in 20 minutes. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so here we are at the demo side of things. So what we're looking at here is the BIM 360 home page. What I'm going to do quickly is just describe how we're going to go through this demo, just to give you an idea of what we're going to see. So I'm going to describe the two modules that you get with BIM 360 docs first. So home and insight, just what they do. And then I'll walk through BIM 360 docs or the document management module after that. Once we've done on the document management side and some of the functions in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through BIM 360 design, and then I'm going to run through model coordination or BIM 360 coordination. And what I'm going to try and do when I go through that is to talk about it as though you're in a design story. So you're actually walking through perhaps what an architect might be doing and how they might be using BIM 360. So first of all, I'll just quickly explain what Project Home is. So the Project Home that we're looking at here is like the cover page of the project. It tells you about the project. It tells you kind of just bits and bobs that might be useful for your sort of day-to-day activities. Or if you're inviting somebody new to the project, it's designed really just to explain to them maybe where it is, what the weather's going to be like. You can actually link different things into this. So this is customizable. What I've put in here is the ability to be able to just quickly view the model. So this is linked to one of the pages in BIM 360. There's a couple of issues in here. And I've also linked Faro Web Scene as well. So this is what I was talking about in the PowerPoint with one of the apps. EarthCam is that you could have a camera on site and you could have a live feed streaming through to your BIM 360 homepage so that when you open this up, you can see the project and how it's progressing in construction. So the home, like I say, is the cover page for the project. It's kind of where anybody can get to and see a little bit about the project. The insight page is where perhaps a manager might come, or somebody who needs to make decisions based on the metadata in the project. So what we're looking at here is potentially what a manager might come to in the morning. You might look through some of the graphs that we have here about issues and reviews, see what's open, what's been closed, what's been voided, and then make a decision about what I might need to do next on the project. But the reason the insight's slightly different from home is that you can control who sees this and who can't. So with home, everybody can see it, but with insight, it's really designed for, like I say, managers. The other thing you can do from here as well is you can actually create reports. So there's the ability to be able to get your issues straight out of BIM 360 docs into a PDF report and schedule those reports so that you get them every week. And then that gives you insight onto the project, maybe about specific issues that you might have. So that's home and insight, and you get both of those modules with BIM 360 docs. You get more in insight with BIM 360 build, so there's things like quality, schedule, and things like that inside the BIM 360 build module that's in addition with the insight there. So you just get other tabs for extra information. So we're going to look at BIM 360 docs first. We're going to just work through some of the functionality that we spoke about in the PowerPoint, just to get an idea of kind of how it works. So the first thing to mention is that because I'm an account admin on this project, I can see everything. So all of these folders on the left here are visible to me because I'm a project admin and an account admin. When we're working in a project, if we were, say, the architect or the electrical engineer, we can set it so that we only see, or that they only see, the folders that they need to have access to. So if we were working in work in progress, they only get the folders that they might want to use for work in progress. Or alternatively, obviously if they're not working or they don't want to work inside the BIM 360 hub, they can just share to a shared folder. I've actually set this project up as though perhaps we have an internal design team that are all happy to work on BIM 360 docs and work in progress on this hub, but I've also set it up in a way that allows us to see how it might work if we had external teams who may just need to share with us what they've done in terms of maybe an IFC, the native Revit file, a PDF, a DWG. So this is set up for two kind of workflows in a way. So what we'll do first is I'm just going to run through the different file types that BIM 360 works and just some of the capabilities with those file types. So one of the things I mentioned is that BIM 360 is really good for just viewing lots and lots of different file types. So whether that's Microsoft 365, Microsoft Documents, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you can view all of those straight from the browser, so you don't need to open up Word to work with them. So I can grab this Word document, open it straight up. As long as I've got an Office 365 account, a Microsoft 365 account, I can click on Edit, and I can just edit this document. And the beauty of this is, because it's Microsoft 365, if I do make a change to this document for any reason, what's going to happen back in BIM 360 Docs is it's going to save a new version, and it's going to remember what I was, which version I was the one changing it for. So when I go back, if I'd made a change to this document, I would have an extra version for that Word document. So I'll come back out of here, and all the versions are stored here. So the reason that's useful is because you've got one document in one place. You're not working on it locally and then uploading that document and then losing track of which one was the most current. You can do the changes in that one place. And there are ways of locking documents as well to stop other people from changing them if you need to do that. So it works very, very well with documents as well as design file types. It also works really well with IFCs. So obviously we've talked a lot about Autodesk softwares, but the IFCs that come from lots and lots of other softwares will work perfectly well with BIM 360, and I can view all of those online. So I've got an IFC here, and if I click on an element in here, I've got all of the information and also the model tree that will come with this as well. So if there is any information I need to look at, perhaps I've got an IFC that's a Kobe model view definition, I need to just review some of the information in it. Any information in the IFC will also come through into BIM 360 for me to be able to review. And just to quickly discuss some of the other options that you'll get in most views when you're looking at anything on BIM 360 is your markups that you have down the right here. So you can create markups on most types of document, PDFs, DWGs, IFCs, Revit files, DWF, X's, most things you can create markups against, and you can also create what are called issues. And we'll come back to issues. But on all the documents, what you'll also get is a version history. So depending on how far you are along in the design process, you might have more or less versions. They're not related to revisions necessarily, they're just a way that you can go back to previous versions of that document. So moving on to, say, a Revit file, we'll just have a look at this architectural model we've got. When we're going through the next steps of looking at design and coordinate, I'll actually run through this file inside of Revit. So the difference between perhaps an IFC and a Revit file is that I might have some drawings that come with my Revit file. So one of the things that I can do with this particular Revit file is I can view the drawings that have been published with it, and these are controllable, so I can choose which drawings are published with my Revit model. So I only share what I want to share with these things. So if I zoom into something perhaps in my drawing that I want to find, maybe this door here, if I click on any elements in the drawing, they are linked directly to the model. So I can get some context about where they are. And likewise, vice versa. So if I was to select something in my model, it's also going to show where that is in the drawing. So that can be quite handy just when you're trying to find things and see things in context. You also have other options as well inside the viewer that you would normally get in most other software. Things like being able to slice the model. So I can use the section tool here just to be able to quickly slice the model in different ways. The easier way to work with, especially Revit models, is that BIM 360 allows you to break things down based on phases. I don't actually have any phases in here, but also levels. So I can click on a level. If I just turn off my section here, if I click on a level, which is the levels directly from Revit, then BIM 360 will actually just focus on those levels. So it's really clever in terms of being able to use the information that you already have and not having to maybe section work out where the section should go for those. You also have the option for measuring tools. You've got the option to go to a first-person view and walk around the model, and you could do maybe a review in there using that kind of a tool. And just like the IFC, you've got all of the information coming through in that as well. So there's lots and lots of functionality inside of here. Slightly different perhaps about a Revit file, and actually this will work with an IFC as well, is I can use the compare tool to have a look at the difference between models and their versions. So what we're going to look at now is the difference between version 9 and version 6. And so what we can see here is what's been added. So in the right here I've got this panel that I can focus on things that might have been added. So we've got some new exercise bikes in here. We've got two things removed, the weights benches, no one likes doing weights. And we've also got everything that's been modified as well. And because this is a Revit file, you can actually focus on the disciplines, specific disciplines. So you could select just the architectural elements or just the structural. And you can also focus on the individual categories. So I can click on one of these, I can click on the door category here, select one of my modifications, and then I can see what's happened between those two versions. So in this case, I can see here this door has moved from version 6 here on the right to version 9, where it's on the left here. And all of these changes I can export to an Excel sheet if I wanted to. So that can be quite useful if you need to create sort of a change archive system with the stuff that you have in here. So some really neat functionality, being able to view different file types, see what's changed between them. You can actually also do this for PDFs and DWGs, except the difference is that it's an overlay rather than what we've seen there with the Revit files. It will also work really well with photos, so you can upload any of your photos, and being able to see them as a thumbnail is quite a lot easier than trying to find them in a list of the names that the iPhones give them. So that's just some of the functionality that we have generally in BIM 360 docs that we can use. There's a lot more that we can do, but in terms of viewing files, uploading files, making sure people can see exactly what they need, there's a lot that we can do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take us on the story of the design of a building and the integration of other disciplines using BIM 360. So we have in here Revit files from lots of different disciplines. So these are all Revit files, but this would work with Plant 3D, Civil 3D in terms of collaboration. And we have what's called the design collaboration module in BIM 360. So this is moving on now to BIM 360 design. And what this allows us to do is to see and share data from what are called teams. So in here I have all of those disciplines, and each of those disciplines, perhaps on a Friday every 2 weeks, will release a set of information. And they can do that using the BIM 360 design module. So I have swimming lanes at the top here, and as the architect, what I can do is I can create what are called packages, and I can fill these packages with the latest model, documents, sets of drawings to share with the design teams. And only when I decide to share them will the others see that information. So I can see here that I've got things that have been shared from plumbing, HVAC, fire, electrical, and then I can decide to what's called consume them and then use them within my design. So I can take the HVAC design and then I can put that in, link that perhaps into my architectural model and then design, make any design changes based on what perhaps they've done. This also allows you to see all the models that you've consumed in context as well. So in this design module, as people share, you can get the latest models showing up inside this design module for you to be able to review really what's changed between the design changes. So if the HVAC guys have released something that there's been a big change to that might affect my electrical model, then I can see that change before I decide perhaps to link it into my Revit. And there's a really nice way to be able to see those federated models. But obviously only the teams would see these see that be in their teams that relates to them. So the architects would only be able to control what's released from the architects, the plumbing only from the plumbing, and only when they decide to share those things. So what I can do as the architect, so if I go back to the example of the architects, if I open up Revit now, I can go to my architects folder. Obviously I'd only see that folder if I was the architect. Head to my Revit folder and I can actually just open up that model that was hosted on BIM 360. And because this is a work shared model, which is part of what comes with BIM 360 design, is the ability to be able to work share while hosting on BIM 360 docs. So I could have multiple people working on this project, and then I can synchronize with Central. It's going to synchronize with BIM 360 docs server and decide when I'd like to publish that. So you're getting those changes pushed up to BIM 360 docs and those new versions created directly from Revit in one place. And then when I'm happy with everything, I can then decide to share that with everybody in my BIM 360 design team. And that's what we have here, is we just have a progression of models that people have shared progressively in this project. But they are all hosted, in this case, on BIM 360 docs. And this doesn't just work with Revit files, you can also have shared IFC files being populated in the BIM 360 design timelines, as well as plant 3D models as well. So there's a lot you can do there in terms of collaboration. So BIM 360 design, we've got all those teams working together, sharing their models into each of these folders. Now what that also does is, as you progress, you'll be creating in this shared folder that we can see here a list of all, these are a list of all of the latest shared files. So as the architect, maybe 2 weeks gone by, I've made some changes, I release and share my model, it's automatically going to put that newest model in here. Now what I've done in this project as a workflow is I've used BIM 360 coordinate and pointed it towards that folder. So what we're going to do now is move on from BIM 360 design to BIM 360 coordinate. So if I go to my model coordination module, what I'm going to have is all of those Revit files in this list here, and this is automatically clashing those files. So it means that I can have the latest models being clashed automatically in BIM 360. And what I've got here is so HVAC against electrical. If I click on the 6 clashes I've got here, I can review all of the hard clashes in the model. So here I can see that I have some lights clashing with some ducts. And there's various ways that you can filter the type or the way that you look at these different clashes. But this is only going to show me hard clashes. And this is really useful for getting those early design changes in quick to make sure that there's no coordination issues. But what we really need to be able to do is make sure that we can also do soft clashes as well and use the likes of Navisworks to be able to clash these things. So with BIM 360 Coordinate, you also get a license of Navisworks. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into Navisworks I'm going to show you how you can get these models that we're looking at here into Navisworks and do your clashes with the live models that you're getting from that shared folder as well. So if I close, I'll open up my Navisworks. I'll actually just start a fresh project because I've left the last Navisworks open. So go to new. I'm not going to save this one. So this is a very new feature inside of Navisworks. What I'm going to be able to do here is I'm going to be able to open up the models that I have in that particular project. So we've got my virtual summit project here, and these are the models that we were just looking at in BIM 360 Coordinate. And what I can do is I can select all of them and I can just open them exactly much easier than I would normally with local files. And what that's going to do is it's going to federate them all exactly as I would expect Navisworks to do. And I can actually save this back into BIM 360 docs to be able to open later. And as those shared files update, I can actually update those files as I normally would inside of Navisworks. So I've got live data streaming to Navisworks through the NWF file that I have here. So if I just head to a view, I've got my model, and the other useful thing about this as well is that the issues inside of BIM 360 docs will link with Navisworks. So I can choose to manage my issues and I can see any issues that have been created against this project. So it means that I can really quickly find any of those issues that I might want to look at. So if I go back to my first issue on there, my rectangular co-eccentric light here, so this is an issue I made in BIM 360 Coordinate. I can see that I've got a clash here, and this is coming directly from my BIM 360. So as well as being able to get the issues, I can also create the issues in Navisworks and have those feed back up into BIM 360 docs. So having a look at the design journey we've been on, you can host your files on BIM 360 docs, use it as a common data environment, share easily, very good permissioning system, very granular permissioning system in terms of what you can allow people to see and not see. BIM 360 Design allows you to really easily access your models, work on BIM 360 docs, make changes and have those changes streamed live into something, say like BIM 360 Coordinate, where you can get the clashes and federate and get the issues then pushed back to the designers to be able to make the changes and update the models that are then sent back into BIM 360. So there's an entire workflow for design here. So I hope this has been useful in terms of a work overflow. The modules we've looked at here have been BIM 360 Docs, BIM 360 Design, BIM 360 Coordinate, and we haven't looked at BIM 360 Build, but if there are any questions on BIM 360 Build, get in touch with Man and Machine. We'd love to talk to you about any of the BIM 360 suite. So like I say, thanks very much. I hope this has been useful. Best of the journey on the rest of the virtual summit, and I'll catch up with you guys later, I'm sure.